My name's Angelo, and welcome to We Want Picks. I'm going to give you an early breakdown for UFC 283. There aren't even odds for all of these fights yet, just a few of them, which means I get to come in here with a clear eyes, clear mind, a full heart. Let's see if you get that movie reference. And we're going to break down these fights without the influence of the bookies telling me who should win. So let's go ahead and we're going to jump right in, break down this entire card. I'm going to give you my picks, my predictions, and my bets. But before I do, we've been talking about this $1,000 giveaway. We're going to give you $1,000, and all we need to do is hit 10,000 subscribers before January 1st. We're a week out. We only need a couple hundred more. This should not be a problem. So click the links in the description to qualify. All you need to do is subscribe to this channel, subscribe to our other channel, Picks Nation, and comment on the giveaway video. And the comment is very important because we're just going to use a random comment picker to pick the winner. So all those links are in the description. This is absolutely free. It costs you literally nothing. You don't need to be a premium member or anything like that. And speaking of premium member, a couple of you cheap bastards out there are going to be like, well, I'll take them. There's not fights for a few weeks. We're good. We don't need. No, that is absolutely wrong. This is when premium membership is almost more important than ever because these lines are dropping randomly. Just yesterday, one fight was added for UFC Vegas 67. One. And instantly, we attacked that line, put a bet on the board, and we'll see what happens to that line moving. The Shavkat Rakhmonov line, anybody who has been a premium member for the last couple of weeks saw that I have a 3-unit bet on him at minus 315. He is now a minus 500. That closing line value alone covers premium membership for many, many months. Even if a unit's only $10 for you, that's more than units. That's 2 units worth of line value right there. So make sure you sign up at weonpicks.com. Click Become a Member. We have 14 units of future bets on the board. And the very second that these lines start to drop, if it's a fight that makes sense, we're going to bet on it and we're going to put the alerts in the Discord. So make sure your Discord's linked and you will get alerts to your phone. You could be at your dinner table celebrating Christmas and bang, oh, they just placed this bet. Let me just tail it real quick. You don't have to do anything. You're not clicking refresh. We're doing all of that. WeWantPicks.com at the top. Click Become a Member. And if you want to recover from the holidays, we're a couple days out from Christmas here. I'm sure you're hurting a little bit. I will send you $50. The only thing you need to do is go to WeWantPicks.com/bets. Use our link to sign up with any one of our betting partners. Make a deposit, and we'll send you $50 as a thank you. It's literally that simple. So WeWantPicks.com/bets. Use the link. Make a deposit. We'll send you $50. It's affiliate marketing. They pay us. We pay you. Could not be any more simple or logical. And let's go ahead and break down this card. It's UFC 283 or UFC Brazil, as some people have been calling it. We've got a lot of fights on this card. It's actually a very solid card. And opening up is Daniel Marcos taking on Saimon Oliveira. Daniel Marcos is an effective striker. He's got power. He's pretty accurate. He does a nice job stringing together combinations and marching forward. He's going to throw 1-2s and follow up with flying knees and elbows. His takedown defense is just okay, but what he does that I hate is he strikes while defending takedowns. So he's got one leg in the air and he's trying to hit you in the face. That is stupid. That is useless. That has never defended a takedown. All you're doing is taking away your balance and you're now a step behind because your opponent's working the finish, turning corners, running the pipe, whatever he's doing, and you're just bouncing on one leg trying to hit him in the face with shots that are never going to knock him out. I hate that he does that, so he ends up getting taken down. He is coming off the Contender Series win over Brandon Lewis, where despite being taken down twice, he did have trouble. He did double his strikes, his opponent's strikes, and he had a knockdown. Saimon Oliveira is a very slick BJJ fighter, and he's incredibly flexible. He's literally dangerous from anywhere on the ground. In the past, I've compared him to how Charles Oliveira grapples. Obviously, they're not anywhere near the same level, but they have a similar grappling style in MMA because they constantly have something in their hands like wrist control. They're always working off their opponent's hips. And he's just constantly looking for something on the ground. He's very, very dangerous. His striking does lack a bit. He throws one punch at a time, and then he tends to overreact to anything coming his way. People have had success sending combinations at him because of those reactions. He's coming off that loss to Tony Gravely where he gave up 11 takedowns. You guys saw the Vegas 67 breakdown. I'm sick of shit. I'm almost done. I'm almost through the woods, but I got a little bit of drainage here. There's going to be some hard cuts and some coughs. But we'll get through it, and I'm going to go with Marcos here. I think Marcos gets it done. His takedown defense definitely has me worried, but Saimon is just straight up a jiu-jitsu nerd, and he's going to be absolutely dominated on his feet. He wildly overreacts to strikes thrown his way. You throw something in his face, he's just huge movements out of the way. And I think Marcos is going to exploit those huge movements, send stuff, get Oliveira to overreact, and then follow up and start pounding away. I think the skill gap on their feet is wider than the skill gap on the ground. Obviously, Oliveira is going to be very, very dangerous on the ground. So hopefully Daniel Marcos doesn't spend too much time down there and just works it on his feet. So both of these guys are somewhat dangerous for different reasons, but I'm going to go with Daniel Marcos here to get it done. Then we got Cody Stamann taking on Luis Lacerda. And Luan Lacerda is a sick grappler who can strike. He comes forward with reckless abandon, throwing punches, kicks with no real rhyme or reason, but everything's got a ton of power. From there, he's going to work trips or single leg takedowns. And then on the ground, he's a savage. He's very creative and always looking for a submission. He's a threat everywhere, but definitely reckless, and he can lose positions because of it. Cody Stamann's a very well-rounded fighter. He wrestled at all levels, including college. He started boxing at only 16 years old. He's a good technical striker who sets a nice pace, but doesn't necessarily have just raw power to threaten finishes. He averages almost 3 takedowns per fight, but can have very real trouble if you push the wrestling pace on him. He is coming off that knockout win over Eddie Wineland in June. And I know I said he doesn't have true knockout power, but Eddie Wineland, as much as we love him, he's older and he's been through some wars and his chin isn't what it's supposed to be. On paper, this has been set up to showcase Lacerda. It's in Brazil. It's all set up for him to blow through Cody Stamann, and he's an exciting guy. He's from Brazil. He's fighting Cody, who isn't traditionally dangerous. But if Lacerda comes out reckless, he could end up just getting taken down and controlled. And I think they're about even on their feet, right? Cody's going to have the better wrestling. Lacerda's going to have the better BJJ. Cody's going to be more technical with his striking. Lacerda's just going to have straight up more raw power. I am going to go with Lacerda for the pick because even if Cody gets the takedowns, you know, he's not completely out of the woods because every round starts on his feet and he could come in himself with his chin up and get caught. Lacerda's going to be the pick. Absolutely no bet here whatsoever because Stamann is absolutely the type of guy that can come in here and just spoil the UFC's plans with Lacerda. So Lacerda's the pick. Do not bet on this fight when the odds drop. And what I may do is one of those takedown prop bets with BetOnline when those drop. We're going to a couple of weeks out from those dropping, but we've had an incredible amount of success. BetOnline drops lines either, more than 2 takedowns or whatever that is, but then also who is going to get more takedowns in this fight. And we may get lucky and they may have Cody Stamann at like minus 300. Throw a couple of units on that. It's almost guaranteed money because if there's no takedowns, you get a refund. And if he gets more, you get paid. Very, very simple. We just cashed on Jared Gordon over Paddy Pimblett at plus 160 on that line. So those prop bets have been very, very generous to us. Then we got Warlley Alves taking on Nicolas Dalby. Warlley Alves is a BJJ black belt who throws wild, but really just to set up his takedowns and BJJ. His takedowns aren't the best, but his BJJ is aggressive. He has jumped guillotine more than once and has mixed success doing it. Even though he isn't technical on his feet, he is dangerous and he's always hunting for a KO. He absolutely just bombs away looking for a finish. Nicolas Dalby is a karate-style striker who stays mobile and switches stances. He has a good amount of power, but he can be hittable himself, and he does have an even striking differential. He averages more than 1 takedown per fight, but he does have a very low 31% takedown accuracy. His striking is okay, his grappling is okay, and all in all, he's just a well-rounded guy who will work hard, but he's not necessarily dangerous. I need to go Dalby here. He's the less dangerous of the 2 fighters, but he's also the more durable and more consistent guy. He comes forward, he works for a full 15 minutes, while Warlley comes out, swings wild before just jumping a guillotine and then gassing out. Dalby isn't the type of guy that's going to get caught with a big overhand or a Hail Mary submission. So Dalby's going to be the pick. And if these odds drop and Dalby's an underdog, I may throw a half a unit on him in that spot. So I like in Dalby here. I'm going to keep a very, very close eye on these odds. And as soon as they drop, if Dalby's a decent underdog, I'm going to put something on there because there's going to be some real value in him there. So make sure, if you're already a premium member, link your Discord, because the second that we place a bet, you'll get an alert to your phone. So link the Discord. It's in the account management. That costs nothing. Go ahead and do that now. Then we have Thiago Moises taking on Guram Kutateladze. Thiago Moises is a very slick grappler who does a great job of staying dangerous while composed, meaning he's maintaining positions, but he's still working towards a submission. Even though he is primarily a grappler who averages more than one takedown per fight, he has technical striking and can hang with most people. He uses solid low kicks to set up his takedowns and is a solid top 15 guy. Guram Kutateladze, I definitely butchered that, but Guram is a solid striker with incredible kicks, pressure, and submission threats. While he gets taken down, like he did 5 times against Gamrot, he's so active on the ground that his opponents don't really have a chance to settle in or rack up any meaningful control time. On his feet, he has legit power, he's got speed, and he's got professional kickboxing experience. He has 2 split decisions in the UFC, a win over Gamrot on short notice and a loss to Demir. Both fights were absolutely razor thin and saw him defend a combined 17 takedowns. And I have to go Guram here. He's proved to have incredible takedown defense, and we know he's a dangerous fighter. Even when he's taken down, his BJJ defense, BJJ, oh my God. All the Afrin is just messing me up. The BJJ defense is solid, and he never stops working. Moises is probably the more dangerous guy because of the submissions threat, but I see Guram just picking him apart the entire fight in his feet, while Thiago's takedown attempts are just going to progressively get more desperate, be more telegraphed, and less effective as the fight goes on. I'm very confident here. I think Guram could be a parlay piece. I'm just hoping that he's going to open up at like a minus 200, and I'm going to attack that line, throw him in some parlays before it takes off. He's going to close at like a minus 400 favorite, I bet. If not worse. I just told you this. I told premium members, and then I told everybody else when I got Shavkat Rakhmonov at minus 315, he is going to close at a minus 700. He's already at minus 500, and most of the general public isn't even looking yet. So Guram is another guy on this card whose line is just going to absolutely take off. Now we have the rebooked. This was booked a while ago, fell apart, and it's rebooked. We have Shamil Abdurakhimov taking on Jailton Almeida. Shamil is a solid boxer with good counter strikes. He got solid wrestling. He's somewhat of an accomplished wrestler, and he's had mixed success in the UFC. He took down Derek Lewis 4 times in that loss, Andrei Arlovsky twice in a win, and his chin hasn't held up as much as I'm sure he'd like it to at 41, but he still hits hard and is a gamer. Curtis Blades was the last person to take him down, and he did it 5 times, bringing Shamil's overall takedown defense to 47%. Jailton Almeida, he's the real deal. He's a great prospect. He's got powerful hands, incredible grappling. All of his wins are by stoppage, and that's because he's just got non-stop pressure. He comes in hot. He relentlessly works for takedowns. Once he's on the ground, he's going to chase his submission, hit you in the transitions. If he does have a flaw, sometimes he's just so excited to get the finish that he may lose a position, but the reality is he is blowing through people. He is a light heavyweight that is now just seems to be a full-time heavyweight, which can be concerning because people like Shamil's not the biggest guy in the division, but as he works up the ladder, you're going to get bigger and bigger people. He's going to end up with a true massive heavyweight, and we're going to see what that looks like. The power in his hands may not matter when he gets up there, but for now, Shamil's just sort of a mid-sized guy. He's not massive. He's not small. He's just a normal-sized guy. So I think Shamil's going to come forward, look for his own takedowns. It's not going to happen. Jailton Almeida is going to get his takedowns, blow through Shamil here. But like I said, eventually this Jailton Almeida experiment at heavyweight is going to hit a full-size heavyweight wall. But Jailton Almeida is going to be the pick. We'll see what the odds are. The first time this was booked, those odds absolutely took off. I'm not laying down Jailton Almeida at minus 500. That's not happening. 300, 200, sure. So I'm going to keep an eye on that. When that drops, I'll hit it. Again, make sure your alerts are on for Discord so that you get that notification if you're a premium member the second we place that bet. But Jailton Almeida should be able to get this done, but He's not a guarantee in all of these fights. He is going up in weight, and eventually that's going to be a problem for him. Then we got Terrance McKinney taking on one of two Bonfim brothers. He's taking on Ismael Bonfim. Terrance McKinney is a long, powerful guy, and he likes to fight at range. He's got a great striking differential at almost 5-2 and the wrestling credentials to dictate where the fight goes. He's both a threat on his feet and in grappling exchanges. He's coming off the win over Raik Gonzalez, where he looked good, but he was cracked hard and used his wrestling to get it done. Ismael Bonfim is a wild striker with very real power and no regard for straight punches. He literally just charges forward and throws every single punch as if he's throwing a baseball. Just wham, winging him. He will mix in flying knees and the occasional takedown. When he takes his time, he can be accurate, powerful, and have solid defense. Him and his brother, who are both on this card, are very high-level accomplished boxers, but Ismael seems to just sort of abandon that traditional boxing technique when he's inside of an MMA cage. He charges forward. He's open to get hit himself. He doesn't use his takedowns often, but when he is on the ground, he's got solid BJJ. Terrance needs to be careful here because Ismael throws heat, and Terrance has a tendency to get cracked. Eric Gonzalez cracked him. Obviously, Drew Dober did as well. So Terrance is still going to be the pick here because he's going to be the better overall fighter because he's a jiu-jitsu threat. He's got wrestling credentials, and he can strike. But I'm undecided if I'm going to bet on him because, you know, obviously Ismael's dangerous, but Terrance has been getting hit. He's been getting hit. I know on paper it looks like he's blowing through people. In the Drew Dober fight, he beat the relentless shit out of that guy for most of that fight. But the reality is Terrance is more hittable than he should be at 28 years old. So he's definitely the pick here. We'll see what the odds look like. If it's almost even money, I'll bet on him. If he's a mid-sized favorite, I'm not touching it because, again, dude gets cracked and the Bonfim brothers can crack. Then we have Shogun Rua in his swan song fight. He said this is his last fight, and he's taking on Ihor Potieria. Shogun Rua is an OG shoot-a-box guy and an absolute pride legend. This is his last MMA fight. He's going to retire. And we need to appreciate everything this guy has done. He has one of the most amazing highlight reels you will ever see, and he's one of the most violent guys to ever fight professionally. When he was younger, he was an explosive striker with devastating knees and a clinch. He's older, he's slower, but he's still violent. He still hits hard. He has solid takedowns and a BJJ black belt. But the BJJ black belt, it's really there for defense. You don't see him sort of working that offensively very often. Ihor Potieria is a decent striker with a very loose style. He's got solid power and very good accuracy, but he can be hittable because he keeps his hands really low and he relies on his chin. He's coming off back-to-back fights where he was completely outstruck, and that seems to be the story of his career so far, right? He stands in front of you. If his chin holds up, great. He'll probably eventually find a knockout. If it doesn't, he's going to be put out himself. This should actually be a pretty competitive fight because while Ihor has power, his record is hollow. There's a lot of BS fights in that 18 win there. Tough guys with sort of mixed grappling are going to find some success against him every time. We saw Nick Negumereanu with the striking and the grappling exchanges before that stoppage. Shogun is old and slow, but he can still get takedowns and still hit hard. I'm going to pick Shogun here because I think he's the more well-rounded fighter, but listen, in no world should me, you, or anybody else bet on this fight. Do not bet on this fight. Every single event, not every event, the last 7 events, 6 events, whatever it is, I have been up units. Even the ridiculously hard ones where the rest of the world was crying on Twitter about how shit their bets were and the event, blah, blah. It's because I pick my spots. There's going to be somebody that sees Shogun in this, he can still, and bet on him. And that's stupid, and you shouldn't do it. There's no reason to bet this fight. Shogun could get knocked out in 5 seconds. Shogun could get a bunch of takedowns, win at home, retire on top. Anything's possible. It's a fist fight. Don't spend your money here. Shogun's going to be the pick, mostly out of respect and the fact that he's the more complete fighter, but he's still 41 years old. Ihor's record is hollow, but he still hits hard. He's still only 26, so don't touch the fight. Just watch it, appreciate what Shogun has done for all of us. The last 20 years. Dude's been a professional for 20 years. Keep your money. Then we got Brad Tavares bouncing back after that Dricus du Plessis loss, and he's taking on Gregory Rodriguez. And Brad's a tried and true vet at this point. He's been in the UFC for more than 12 years. He's 14-7 in the UFC, and his losses are to people like Yoel Romero, Israel Adesanya, Robert Whittaker, and then, just recently Dricus du Plessis, who's not anywhere near the level of the other guys I just listed. He's a solid striker with very good takedown defense at 80%, and he's got that Hawaiian fighting spirit. He's coming off that loss to du Plessis, where he defended 7 takedown attempts, and he had him in some real trouble early. Gregory Rodriguez is a well-rounded guy with good, clean striking, solid power, and a BJJ black belt. And even though he has that black belt and is more than capable on the ground, he has really good takedown defense, which he uses to keep fights on their feet so he can just slug it out. He's a big guy with power and strength, and the reality is that he is a threat everywhere. He's coming off that win over Chidi Njokuani where his head was split wide open. It's one of the worst cuts I've ever seen. Like, it was, you could see the skull. Clean as a whistle. Wild cut. Go check that out. I actually don't, I'm no doctor. It seems crazy that it was able to heal up that quick. That wasn't that long ago, and it was, there's a lot of healing that needed to be done. Anyway, Brad's a tough guy. He's going to be in this fight to the very end. He's not going to wilt under the pressure. He's not going to get bullied. He's not going to stop looking for the win. But I do think Gregory is just too well-rounded, too technical. I like Gregory to get it done. It's not going to be an easy fight. This is probably going to go to a decision. And maybe that's the bet over on the round line. But Gregory Rodriguez is going to be the pick here. I am very curious to see what that cut looks like. See if it's fully healed. Then we have Josiane Nunes taking on Zara Fairn. Josiane Nunes is a striker with crazy power who throws very, very hard. She's not a grappler, but her striking is solid and busy. She likes to come forward with leg kicks and then bomb away with big overhand lefts. She's compact, but she doesn't really have too many issues managing range. And when she is the much shorter fighter in most of her matchups, she does a good job entering the pocket, touching, and then leaving the pocket. She's coming off the win over Ramona Pascal, where she did get taken down very easily, but she had solid enough cardio to pull that off. Zara Fairn's a technical striker with weak takedown defense as well, and just no ground game. She's 0-2 in the UFC, but her debut was against Megan Anderson, and her second fight was against Felicia Spencer. She's certainly better than her UFC record, but this is going to be the first time that we get to see her strike. This is the first fight in the UFC where somebody's not desperately trying to get her to the ground. She has a nice jab, decent kicks, but not much real power. This was actually a fight that was supposed to happen over a year ago, but Fairn missed weight by 8 pounds, and that was 8 pounds over the catch weight. So she was nowhere near the actual weight limit for a traditional featherweight fight. She's big, she's long, she's powerful, and that's what makes this fight so tricky because Fairn's going to be the more technical striker and have better range, but Nunes is going to be by far the more dangerous fighter because of her power. There's going to be a very, very slight lean here for Nunes because the judges seem to be ruling for aggression and for damage instead of sort of the technical dancing and decisions. This is another fight. Don't bet it. Keep your money. Don't be the idiot who... This is what a lot of idiots do. If you're one of these people, I'm sorry, you're an idiot. This is what a lot of people do. They'll look at a fight like this. Somebody's going to be the underdog. And you're going to say, I think this is a 50-50 fight. And if I can get underdog money on a 50-50 fight, that's great value. No, it's not. That's how idiots think. Instead of chasing plus money, you should be looking for guaranteed spots. And then go from there. I'm sorry to call you guys names. But that's what ends up happening. Every week, I do my breakdowns, then I watch other people for 2 reasons. 1, curious what the general market thinks. And 2, I want to hear who steals my insight. Because I have heard people, word for word, steal my breakdowns and my tidbits. It is what it is. No big deal. That's what happens when you're first. But the reality, first to market, not first like the best to do it. The reality is, there's no reason to find 50-50 fights and then bet the underdog. It's just not. I'm up 2.6 units on the last card. The rest of the Twitterverse took a bath because I didn't play that stupid game. This is one of those fights. People are going to fall into that trap. You're going to see one of them at plus money and be like, it's a close fight and well, Josanne barely beat Ramona Pascal and Sarah's at plus 150. No, leave it alone. Keep your money. Josanne Nunes is going to be the pick, but I'm honestly, Serafin can absolutely just touch and go and win a decision, but the judges seem to be favoring the come forward, the big punches, the damage. So I'm going to lean Nunes here. But again, that pick is basically meaningless because you should do nothing with that information. Then we got Mounir Lazzez, and he's taking on Gabriel Bonfim. He's the second Bonfim brother fighting on this card. Gabriel Bonfim, like his brother, is a very solid striker. He's got high-level boxing credentials as well as solid BJJ. He's a well-rounded guy who's more patient than his brother and more aggressive with his takedowns. When he gets it to the ground, he's methodical with his control, and he works to positions first and then submissions. He's coming off that Contender Series win over a short notice Trey Waters, where he got a takedown and submission in the first round. Mounir Lazzez is a very good striker with good enough chin that lets him hang out of the pocket. He has lots of power, solid cardio, and works well with combinations. But he isn't just a solid striker. He's also got fantastic takedowns and solid enough fight IQ to know when to use them. He took Abdul Razak Al Hassan down 4 times in his UFC debut to earn himself the win and the performance of the night bonus. He's coming off the dominant striking win over Ange Lusa, where he was just a step ahead that entire time. There's another tough fight to call because Mounir is a solid striker and has some wrestling in his back pocket, where Gabriel is going to be more active on the ground. Mounir is very active on the feet with almost 8 significant strikes landed per minute, which is a giant number. It's usually like 3 or 4. I think I'm going to go with Mounir here. His volume is incredible. His investments in body shots early are great as well. Gabriel can come out here and grapple heavy to take the win, but I think Mounir's 71% takedown defense can hold up and get him a close decision win. Mounir's going to be the pick. Probably not going to bet this fight either. I know you guys are desperate for bet. I'm probably going to leave this one alone because I want to see how good these Bonfim brothers actually are. They may be phenomenal, or, this may just be too big of a stage for them. I don't know. I tend to lean towards they're going to be great. Gabriel specifically seems to be the better, more talented brother, or at least the more consistent one. But I'm just going to watch the Bonfim brothers fights with no bets. But Mounir's going to be the pick here because I just love his striking style and how he invests in the body early. Then we have Gilbert Burns, and he's taking on Neil Magny. Gilbert Burns is a grappler who has developed striking over time. He's pretty good everywhere. His power is impressive, especially considering he's a 155-pounder who moved up to welterweight. He's undersized for the division, but he's fast, powerful, and he's tough enough to hang with the elite. He dropped Usman and almost had him out in that fight. Then he absolutely dominated Wonderboy, and most recently, he lost a incredibly close fight to Chimaev, where he landed more total and more significant strikes. And most people, including myself, thought that Chimaev was just going to blow through Gilbert Burns, and that did not happen. Neil Magny's an incredibly well-rounded guy. He's very tough. He's very experienced. His skills are he's skilled at everything. He's skilled everywhere, but mostly he's a busy come-forward striker, but he also has a very solid grappling game, and he averages more than 2 takedowns per fight. He's coming off the late submission win over Daniel Rodriguez, where he was losing those striking exchanges, but he had 5 takedowns, the cardio, and the determination to get that done. We don't have odds for this fight yet, but I imagine Gilbert is going to be a big-time favorite. And I understand it, right? People thinking Gilbert's just going to blow through Magny. You're not really giving Magny the credit he deserves. He can strike. He can grapple. He's got cardio to push a hard 15 minutes. Gilbert will likely have the power advantage and grappling. And I'm going to lean Burns here, but I want to see him wrestle. I want this to look like the Wonderboy fight. Just come forward, wrestle. Because if he's trying to strike from the outside, I think the reach advantage, the speed advantage, obviously not the power advantage, but Neil Magny may be able to dance and survive on the outside. Magny is patient and skilled enough to win a boring decision with his jab. Burns is going to be the pick. But if I were setting these odds, I would have Burns at a minus 150 favorite. Curious to see what they open up at. Maybe I'm right. Maybe that's what it'll be. Or maybe they just, wow, this guy almost beat Chimaev, minus 300. So we'll see what it is. Let me know in the comments what you think Gilbert Burns' opening line should be. Again, I think it should be minus 150. He's going to be the pick here. He should be a slight favorite, But Neil Magny has absolutely the potential to ruin some parlays if that's what you're doing with Gilbert. Then we have Jessica Andrade taking on Lauren Murphy, a battle of the bullies. Jessica Andrade is a former world champion and contender at multiple weight classes. She's beaten some of the best women on planet Earth and has only lost to the best women on planet Earth, like Valentina Shevchenko, Joanna, and Wei Li. Technique-wise, Jessica's a good striker with a ton of power. Her power isn't just in her hands, though. She can push you around, pick you up, and just physically impose her will, despite almost always being the smaller fighter. Her BJJ isn't just the best as far as raw BJJ is concerned, and her takedowns aren't necessarily technical, but she will pick you up, dump you out, and just start pounding away. When Jessica can be the bully, she can beat anybody. But when she can't bully and she needs to rely on just clean technique, that's where sometimes she can have some trouble. She's coming off that standing submission win over Amanda Lamoche earlier this year, where we saw her power. That was just raw power, strength, and aggression that just squeezed that out and got that done. Lauren Murphy is also a bully. She's a grinder. She's gritty. She's tough. She's got incredible will and determination. She will stick to a game plan. Wrestling and muscle clinch work is her skill set, but her strongest asset is just her sheer will to win. Her striking is sloppy, but it's there and it's in your face. She's coming off the destruction of Miesha Tate, where honestly, she didn't look great. She beat the piss out of Miesha Tate, but she did not look great. It was a typical Lauren Murphy fight. Just lots of grit, but a little bit sloppy. And this should be an interesting fight because Andrade doesn't fight bullies very often, and she could potentially have some trouble with Lauren's style. Lauren can come forward, biting her mouthpiece, and drag Andrade to the ground. This is another spot where I think Andrade is going to open up as a heavy favorite, but it should be closer. Andrade should be like a minus 130 here. She probably is going to open up wider than that, but Lauren Murphy is big, strong, and could just be the one bullying. Andrade is the better fighter, but don't forget, she's going to be a little undersized here. Andrade hasn't won a decision since 2018. She fades later in fights. So Andrade is going to be the pick, but I'm going to keep a close eye on this as we get closer because she may have a little bit of success in the first round bullying, and then start to tire, start to slow down because Lauren Murphy does not have that quit in her. Then we have Paul Craig taking on Johnny Walker. And this is a very interesting matchup. Paul Craig is a grappler who's very dangerous on the ground, and he's proven to be incredibly tough. He has built his entire career on just getting his face smashed in and then pulling off an upset submission win. He did it against Magomed Ankalaev with literally 1 second left in the fight, and he did it in his last win against Nikita Krylov. Essentially, if he has any room to grapple with you, you could potentially be in some trouble. His striking is just okay, but he's not much of a threat, and he can be outstruck by most people in the division. He is a jiu-jitsu nerd, and if he can't submit you, he probably can't win. Unfortunately, that's his deal. Johnny Walker is a very big light heavyweight at 6'6", but not only is he massive, he's fast, he's powerful, he's athletic, he's wild. He's fun to watch, and he gets very creative with his striking. He will spin, he will jump, and he will smile the whole time. He's very unorthodox and very dangerous because of all those crazy techniques, have legit power behind them. He's been very inconsistent lately, though, which makes him hard to predict because a Johnny Walker who shows up prepared and willing to trade is a very dangerous man. But the Johnny Walker who showed up against Thiago Santos is anything but that. He is coming off that win over Jan Kutateladze where he had a takedown and a reversal and pulled off the submission over, people over, why can't I get this sentence out? He submitted Jan Kutateladze, who many people thought was going to be the better grappler in that matchup. And this should not be that tricky to break down. Paul Craig is submission or bust. He's a folk hero because of his incredible come from behind wins, but that's not a game plan. Getting your ass kicked and then pulling something off the last second is not something you train for. It shows how tough he is, and he doesn't quit, and he's never out of a fight, but I can't pick him here. I can't pick the guy that's probably going to get the crap kicked out of him, hoping that he pulls something off later in the fight. If you go by sheer minutes in the UFC, I'd argue that Paul Craig has lost 90% of them. He's lost most minutes in the UFC. And then he pulls off some wins later. The pick's going to be Johnny Walker here, but the bet that we have had success on with Paul Craig is inside the distance, decision, no actions. If Paul Craig pulls off one of those wild submissions, I'll get paid. if Paul Craig gets the piss beat out of him for 15 minutes, I get a refund. He's tough enough to survive a beating if it were to go that route, and dangerous enough to win by stoppage. Those bets are built for people like Paul Craig. So when those odds drop, I'll probably have that bet on him because I don't see him getting stopped here, because as much as I make fun of jiu-jitsu nerds, Paul Craig is very, very tough. He's a warrior. He's not a quitter. He's going to fight for that money, and if he doesn't get the submission win, he'll survive. I'll get a refund. The only partner that offers that is BetOnline. So go to WeWantPicks.com/bets if you jump into BetOnline using our link. If you sign up, if you make a deposit, I will send you $50 as a thank you. So do that now. They also have some of the earliest lines in MMA. Then we have the fourth fight between Deiveson Figueiredo and Brandon Moreno. This is the first time in the UFC we have ever seen two guys fight 4 times, at least in modern UFC. So let's quickly recap the first 3. The very first fight was a draw. Figgy should have won that fight. There was a point deduction. That's why there was a draw. So he won that fight. They took a point away, draw. The rematch was a submission win for Moreno, where he looked incredible. And most recently, the fight was close on the scorecards, but Figgy beat the piss out of Moreno. He had 2 takedowns, 3 knockdowns, and he won it 48-47 across the board. Figueiredo is a very well-rounded guy who's dangerous everywhere. He's good at baiting you into a firefight, where ultimately he's going to control that range and light you up. His BJJ is great, and he is incredible off his back, not to mention the power in his hands. The issue, however, is he's a big guy, and that does affect his cardio. Brandon Moreno is an absolute dog. He's very tough. He's got a great chin. He puts on a nonstop pace. He averages almost 2 takedowns per fight, and he mixes things up really well. His biggest asset is definitely his pace and his will to win. He's going to continue to come forward and stay busy regardless of what's happening in the fight. He's coming off that TKO win over Kai Kara-France, where he started a little slow, but he was able to put it together. And I love Figgy in this spot. I absolutely love him here. He's definitely the better fighter. And without that point deduction, he won 2 out of 3 of these fights. Without the point deduction, who knows when that rematch would have even been. Not to mention all this James Krause stuff. And Moreno, who James Krause was his head coach for his last fight or his last couple of fights, all of a sudden, dude's banned. Brandon Moreno's needing to find a new gym last minute. He did not go back to his old gym. He came over here to Dallas, to Fortis, which I live in Dallas. I don't want to bump into anybody at a Costco. But holy crap, was that a bad decision? That was a bad decision for Brandon Moreno. I think Figgy's going to be more dominant than ever in this matchup. And I did have a 2-unit moneyline bet on him that was refunded because the James Krause ban, all those bets were refunded. Now the odds aren't on the board, at least not for BetOnline. They do exist elsewhere. I'm going to jump all over it. Right now, Deiveson Figueiredo's at like a -120, -110. As soon as those, I do 90% of my betting with BetOnline. As soon as those odds drop for BetOnline, I'm going to hammer it again. I'm going to be all over it with another 2, potentially more unit moneyline bet. The fact that this is almost even is crazy to me because, again, Deiveson Figueiredo won 2 out of 3 of these matchups. The one that he lost, he just wasn't himself that whole time. And Brandon Moreno's got a new gym, a new everything's changing for this guy. We all love him. And that's probably what's factoring it. But Deiveson Figueiredo's absolutely the pick. As soon as these odds drop, there's going to be some money flowing on him. Make sure you have your Discord linked to premium membership so that when you see the bet, you get alerted and can follow instantly. Then we have the main event of the evening. We got Glover Teixeira. Finally, they were able to sort out that mess. They took... Jerry Prochazka dropped. They offered Glover Magomed. He was like, listen, that's a very different fight. Give me a couple of weeks. We'll do it in Brazil. UFC told him to kick rocks. And then it all worked out. That fight was a dud. And now Glover gets to fight for his belt back, and he's taking on Jamal Hill. Glover Teixeira is one of the more decorated light heavyweights in UFC history. I didn't say most. I said more. Don't get all weird with me. He holds divisional UFC records for both knockouts and submissions. He has a Mike Tyson striking style where he has a nice high guard. He's incredibly powerful. He uses his wrestling and his grappling, and he bobs and weaves, explodes in the combinations, and then wrestles. And early in his career, he was known as a striker who happened to have a BJJ black belt. But lately, he has become a grappler who happens to have power in his hands. He took down Jan Blachowicz twice to win the belt. Thiago Santos 4 times before that, and Jiří Procházka 5 times in his last fight. He was literally 30 seconds away from retaining his belt, but he had a bad scramble, and he was just caught with a clean rear naked chokes. Literally 30 seconds away. He was dominating Jiří. 30 seconds away from winning that fight and keeping his belt. Jamal Hill is a tall, rangy striker who comes forward and picks his shots really well. He has an incredible 6-3 striking differential, meaning he's got high volume and he doubles his opponent's strikes. He's primarily a boxer, but he does have solid leg kicks, solid power, volume, and accuracy, which makes him a very real threat on his feet. He has a 65% takedown defense, which he will need in this fight. Anybody who's been watching this channel for a while knows that I know Glover personally. We're both from Connecticut. We have been in the same circles for a long time. I've spent a good amount of time with that guy. A, amazing guy. B, I'm obviously biased. I'm a little biased in this pick. I've known Glover for 15 years, 20 years. How old am I? 20 years, I think. Anyway, my bias hasn't screwed me yet. I picked him to beat Jan, which he did. I picked him to beat Jiří. Sure, he lost that fight, but he kicked the crap out of him 90% of the time. And I think this fight looks exactly like those 2 fights, minus that bad scramble at the end with Jiří. I see Glover coming forward with that tight guard, throwing heavy, and then setting up his takedowns. Thiago Santos took down Jamal Hill 6 times in that fight. And yeah, he was KO'd, but Glover is not Thiago Santos. Obviously, Glover's 43, which is not good. Jamal is an incredible striker with real power, but I think the grappling skill gap is way too wide here. And not to mention, Glover just had a full camp for the Jiří rematch. And the only reason Glover lost that fight is he got tired and had a bad scramble at the end. Literally, that's the only reason he lost that fight. He's had a full camp to improve whatever, small little cardio improvements and then not make a bad scramble. That's it. Jamal Hill's stepping up on short notice for a title fight. It's a big deal. It's a big deal for a young guy who's early in his UFC career. He wasn't supposed to fight until, what was it? March, I think, is when Jamal Hill was supposed to fight. So he wasn't even in camp and then a pivot. He was pre-camp. Anyway, I like Glover Teixeira here. I have a bet on him at plus 130 money line. Premium members, you've seen that for a few weeks. Literally the minute they announced it, a couple hours later, the lines dropped. I hit it at plus 130. It is now plus 110. It's still plus money. I think it's still safe. But again, some closing line value. Well, it didn't close yet, but some early line value for premium members. Glover's going to be the pick here. I think he protects his chin, throws hard, gets the takedowns, and then I think Jamal Hill's going to struggle on the ground. What I will say, anybody who's using the Paul Craig fight as the, Glover's going to submit him, Paul Craig. You obviously didn't watch the Paul Craig fight. Paul Craig was blasted on his ass, broke Jamal's arm or dislocated it, whatever, and Jamal didn't stop. So I'm not saying Glover's BJJ black belt off his back is going to get this done. I'm saying his offensive wrestling and his pressure on top is what's going to get this done. So Jamal Hill's very dangerous. I'm going to need Glover to tuck and bomb and shoot, but I think he absolutely gets this done. Wins in Brazil, gets his belt back, and hopefully retires. What a better way. I mean, headlining a pay-per-view in Brazil as the champ. That's an awesome way to retire. Love the guy. I'm rooting for him. I got that bet on him, and I think it's some solid value there. Don't forget about the $1,000 giveaway. I put up a poll on the channel if we should give $1,000 to one person, $500 to two, $100 to 10, whatever it is. Vote on that, but make sure you subscribe to We Want Picks, subscribe to Picks Nation, and comment on the giveaway video because we're going to use a random comment picker to pick the winner. The links to do all of that are in the description. And don't forget, become a premium member. I get it. Some of you people are very cheap. I get it. I get it. It's $10 a month. It's only $2.50 a week. A couple of bucks per event. I know we have a little bit of a lull here with a couple of weeks, 2.5 weeks with no event, but big mistake because this is when premium is more important than ever. Link your Discord, get the alerts to your phone. We already have 14 units of future bets on the board. And if you need to recover from Christmas, recover from the holidays, fill that bank account back up. Go to WeWantPicks.com/bets. Use our links to sign up with any one of our betting partners. Make a deposit, and I will send you $50 as a thank you. It's affiliate marketing. They're going to pay us. then we're going to pay you $50. It's very simple. WeWantPicks.com/bets. Like, subscribe, do all the things. And we'll see you every single week, even during the break.